That fight song can only mean one thing, Pat.
That Vandy's going to upset Alabama and Auburn again this year?
That's exactly
what that
means. That's what that sounds like. Yeah. Robbie Weinstein, who covers the Vanderbilt Commodores, done a wonderful job there at 247, joining us now here on Three Man Front and joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Robbie, how are you? We're just, less than 2 weeks away from the start of the college football season?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I've been out at Vandy practice a lot, and certainly you go to a lot of practices, and it's great to have the access that we do here. But on the other side of the coin, I can't wait for the real games to start. The practices get a little old after a while, so I think this is maybe the 11th of fall camp today, and things start to look the same. So I'm really looking forward to the real games starting soon.
Okay, so obviously the number one question you probably get, Robbie, on your website all the time, it's Diego Pavia, and he has not been shy. He was on the Paul Feinbaum show about a week ago talking about national championship aspirations, and we all respect that. Unfortunately for Vandy, they have not been listed in an AP or a coaches poll preseason top 25. Let's start there. Was it a bit of a surprise based on the talent coming back and with Diego Pavia at the helm? Were you surprised that Vandy did not get an opportunity to be a so-called top 25 team?
I wasn't surprised that they weren't in the poll. I thought maybe they'd get a couple votes. But, ultimately Vanderbilt is a smaller brand. They're not going to rank toward the top of past recruiting rankings, even transfer class rankings. So, to me, I would not rank them in the preseason top 25, even though they're one of the oldest, most veteran teams in college football. I think it's possible that they could break into the top 25 just like they did last year. But to me, they're probably not a team that's going to get the benefit of the doubt just due to the smaller brand. So I wasn't surprised that they were not in the poll.
How much more buzz is there, Robbie, with the fan base, given last year some of the monumental wins and then the expectations with one Diego Pavia returning at quarterback?
Yeah, there's a lot more. They're coming up on finishing the major renovations to the stadium as well, and so that's going to improve the fan experience. I definitely think, for the first time that I can remember, it's been really a long time, they've got a guy who nationally is pretty well known among college football fans and who draws a lot of attention, and it's just really fun. Both, these interviews are hilarious to watch, and he's got a really fun playing style, and he's a really good player. So I definitely think that has contributed to a lot of buzz. Of course, going to a bowl game and beating some big-name teams last year also helps. I definitely have not witnessed this amount of kind of excitement and anticipation for a Vandy football season anytime recently, if ever.
All right, so let's talk about the defense first before we get back to Diego Pavia and the offense, because Clark Lee took over the defensive side of the ball last year, and it proved, statistically speaking, they cut off 13 points from what they averaged the year before giving up. They went from 129 in the nation to 51st. Just talk about Clark Lee taking over that unit, and what does it look like this year for Vandy?
Well, he's given up DC duties, actually. So I felt like it was taking too much of his time away from managing the overall program. And they've got Steve Gregory, who was associate defensive coordinator last year and called plays for the final, 4 regular season games in the bowl game. He is the full-time DC now. I think it's a pretty big risk, honestly. That's not to say that Gregory won't do a good job, but of course you go from a guy who is a proven, top 15 or 20 defensive coordinator in the sport based on his time at Notre Dame and also doing a good job last year. And you've got somebody who, prior to Vandy, I believe he was safety coach for the Miami Dolphins. So that's a pretty big difference in terms of experience. I don't think the team is going to change a lot. I think their talent has gotten better. They do have some questions at safety, but I think they've really improved on the edge and at corner. They've got some good depth at defensive tackle. But, I'm really curious to see whether there's a drop-off in terms of, coaching and play calling, because that is a question mark.
How many wins is Diego Pavia worth to this Vanderbilt team? Because I hope that he makes it through the season, Robbie, without being injured, without having to miss time. But his just physical nature, the way that he plays, and I know he's tough as nails, if he does miss time, what does that mean to Vanderbilt's quarterback situation, and how many wins or, as a result, losses does Diego Pavia mean to this particular team?
That's a great question. This is kind of one of the big themes of fall camp so far is other quarterbacks are not really playing very well, and the offense really drops off when he's not in there. So I think it depends on how many wins you view them as having this season. My prediction is either 6-6 or 7-5 in the regular season. I think if he were to just not play this season and Blaise Berlowitz were playing quarterback, I think there may be like a 4-8 team. So, I mean, it's at least 2 wins, if not 3, maybe even more. The backup, Berlowitz, does have a lot of arm talent. I think he has potential. He's a redshirt sophomore, but too many bad decisions, lots of interceptions in practice, and, they've been pretty honest about that. The offensive coordinator did an interview after the first scrimmage on Saturday, and just said, Blaise has been too up and down and too inconsistent. So, I mean, it really is a big drop-off right now, and that's a huge risk. I totally agree, because Pavia will put his shoulder into guys and try to finish runs really physically, and that does lend itself to getting injured.
If you take a look at Vandy's schedule, and you just mentioned a Landrum, you're looking at a 6-6, 7-5. That's the way you're looking at it as of this moment. You got to go to Virginia Tech, at South Carolina, at Bama, at Texas, at Tennessee. Now, you do get LSU, Mizzou, and Auburn at home. Is there one particular game, in your opinion, especially the beginning of the season, that if they were to get a victory there, that might be able to parlay that into a better season than a 6-6 or 7-5?
Probably South Carolina. They haven't beaten South Carolina in over 15 years, or maybe it's even been close to 20, something along those lines. And so I'm never going to pick them to win that game until they show it. But I do think there's potential for South Carolina, where they've got this top-heavy roster, right? With Nora Sellers and Dylan Stewart, if they commit that much money to 2 guys, is that going to set up the rest of your team to be successful? So who knows? I mean, if they were able to go in there and pull what would be a pretty big upset, then I think that changes a lot. But that's also asking a lot, right, when you haven't beaten a team since, 2008.
For Clark Lee and what he has already been able to do there, last season being one of those examples, got to meet him, got to meet his family a couple of SEC Media Days ago, and just seems like just a great guy. But for what he's done there at Vanderbilt, you think that Clark Lee, he aspires to move on to maybe another program that we view as more of your prototypical powerhouse college football program, or do you think he's just one of those guys that's very comfortable where he is and you could see him there for a long time?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think Notre Dame would be tempting at some point, right? There are way fewer limitations in terms of recruiting there, not necessarily from an academic perspective, because that's a great school too, but the brand and the history of that program means you can recruit 5-star players there, whereas Vandy, they've never gotten a 5-star recruit. So I could see that being tempting at some point. At the same time, he has young-ish children, and he's from Nashville. This is a great city to live in. I'm sure his quality of life is great, and I doubt, he's itching to leave, from a, life in Nashville standpoint. But I could see, a few years from now, if he feels like he's maxed it out at Vandy and they can't get over the hump past, 7 or 8 wins, yeah, I don't really see why he wouldn't be tempted to go to a job that is like a legit annual national championship contender type of job. And Notre Dame would be the obvious one due to his history there.
All right, Robbie, before we let you go, I want to ask you about the stadium upgrade. Auburn will be there on November the 8th. What is the current status, and are there still tons of cranes and still a lot of construction left to be done at the stadium? Where does that currently stand?
There's not a ton of cranes. They're still working on the south end zone, and that is mostly, I think it's all premium seating, either clubs or suites. And I wouldn't think that most of those are going to be sold to visiting fans, just because you would have to sign up for season tickets, although, maybe some will do that. So that, by the time Auburn comes to town, I think that'll probably be completely done. Whether it's done entirely for the regular season opener on August 30th, I'm not really sure about that, but the building does look quite nice. I would assume capacity at the stadium is probably going to be something like 31 or 32,000 compared to, I want to say, prior to the renovations, it was in the mid to high 30,000. So capacity will be a little bit smaller, but the traditional visiting side of the stadium, those stands, they are pretty much unaltered. So it's really just both end zones that have been changed. And they look nice, but along the sidelines, those stands are still old and still the same.
That is Robbie Weinstein. He covers the Vanderbilt Commodores for 247. Robbie, always appreciate your time. I'm sure we will be talking again during the season as both Alabama and Auburn take on the Commodores. Thanks for your time today. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Okay, yep. Thanks for having me, guys.
That is Robbie Weinstein, joins us on the Higginbotham Hotline. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Well, we're a microwave society. We all know that. You want instant results. You don't want to take a whole lot of time out of your busy schedule. There's great news when it comes to electronic muscle stimulation fitness, boutique fitness, if you will. You can find it just across the way here in downtown Homewood. It's Mandu. You hear me talking about it all the time. Mandu, revolutionary approach, all FDA approved. It's safe, but it's a 15-minute workout. All of the technology, they put you in a suit, hook you up to a machine, electric pulses go to various muscle groups, whether you're trying to improve your arms, your shoulders, your chest, your legs, maybe the glutes. You can do it all. You can spot train. You can build up for endurance, but it's 15 minutes. They have tailor-made programs, whatever results you're trying to achieve, and I can promise you, you're going to get results. I've gotten results, and so many other Jocks listeners who have taken me up on Mandu have gotten results as well. Really good news. First visit is absolutely free. They'll put you in a suit, put you through the 15-minute workout. You can decide if it is right for you. Mandu in downtown Homewood, MANDUU.com. Tell Paul and the gang that Landrum from Jocks sent you. Got a lot of text, a lot of reaction. Robbie Weinstein joining us, talking Diego Pavia, expectations for Vanderbilt. That and so much more as we continue here on a festive Taco Tuesday live from Social Taco in Homewood. Landrum, Pat, Molly, and Conrad, three-man front on Jocks.